Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeff White Fitness Solutions. Thanks for checking out this video today. And today we're going to talk about the dollar. Now, we're all seeing inflation and things getting more expensive, and people are wanting relief. But I don't think we're going to get the relief that we want or expect. I truly believe we are near the end of the dollar's reign. Now, when I say the end, I'm talking it could be within the next several months or within the next several years that the dollar will basically become worthless. And I know that sounds really bold, but I truly believe that. And I'm going to explain why and show you why in just a second. But I think it's very important to really understand money, the history of money, and where we are currently as a nation and where we are with the dollar. So please leave me a comment. Please like and subscribe to the channel. This is Jeff White Fitness Solutions, and the fitness and Jeff White Fitness Solutions pertains to physical, mental, spiritual, and financial fitness. And this is a financial fitness tip. So let's talk about it, people. All right, let's go. All right, so this picture is pretty self-explanatory. It shows the purchasing power of the dollar over the last um, nearly 100 years. And as you can clearly see, it has gone down tremendously throughout the decades. And you don't even have to look at this chart to know that the purchasing power of the dollar has really decreased over the years. Think back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and see how much more you could buy with $20, with $50, with $100 compared to today. The average price of homes and everything has really gone up over the years. The price of school, education, everything's gotten more expensive. And the reason why is because the purchasing power of the dollar has decreased. Now, we could get into reasons why it has decreased, but to be honest, that is really not the point of the video. Can we agree that the purchasing power of the US dollar has greatly diminished over the years? If we can, then that really helps make the point and help us understand where we are as far as our currency is concerned. But just take a look at that. A picture is worth 1,000 words. But we also know how bad it is just because we go out and spend money every single day. Okay, so this picture here is why it's so important to understand money and to know the history of money. Because if you know the history of money, then you can start to think about it and come to your own conclusions as to what's going on, and then you can maybe even look at trends or predict where we may be going. So unfortunately, this stuff isn't taught in school. And just imagine where we would be as a society if they taught things about money in school and how better prepared we could be. So let's just look at this chart really quickly. Okay, this is the history of the world reserve currencies. Now, see, a lot of people think the US dollar is the end all be all, but after you look at this chart for 5 minutes, even less than that, you can see that that's not true. So let's look at the beginning of this chart. So Portugal, their currency had the world reserve currency for 80 years, from 1450 to 1530. So that's basically a lifetime. That's all people knew. It was Portuguese money. Next, the Spain had it, and they had it for 110 years, from 1530 to 1640. Again, that's an entire generation of people where the world reserve currency was Spain's. Next, we had the Netherlands. They had it for 80 years, 1640 to 1720. Next, we had um, France. They had it for 95 years, from 1720 to 1815. And then we had Britain, who had it for 105 years, 1815 to 1920. And next, we have the USA and the dollar. And the dollar is the world reserve currency currently. And it started back in 1920. And how long will it last? I don't know. But as you look at this picture here, do you see a trend? Do you see how you have a world reserve currency, and then it eventually goes away and something takes its place. How many people can really fully, truly understand that? Can you really understand that the US dollar was not the first world reserve currency? Do you think that it will not be the last world reserve currency? Or do you think there will be something after the dollar? See, this is where you have to start thinking logically and understanding history. Because I'm sure for an entire lifetime, people over in Britain thought the pound was the end all be all. And they couldn't imagine using another currency as the world reserve currency. But hey, here we are. So, same thing is happening in America right now. This is why I say I don't believe the US dollar has many more years left. Because if you look at the trend, it ranges from 80 years to 110 years as world reserve currency. And we are near the end. And then add in the fact that the purchasing power has dramatically decreased over the last 100 years. You can see the direction we're headed in. So I believe the dollar is on its way out. So now the next question you should start asking yourself is, well, if the dollar is on its last leg, what are people doing? How are people protecting themselves if the dollar won't be the reserve currency? Well, one thing that many central banks and countries around the world are doing are buying gold. And this is from my favorite website, the World Economic Forum. If you've been following me and just being aware of what's going on, the World Economic Forum is in the news a lot lately. Well, not mainstream news, but they're in the news a lot lately. They said you will own nothing and be happy and you'll eat bugs and you won't be driving cars by the year 2030. But they have an article here where they say here's why so many central banks are buying gold. And it basically says demand for gold has risen by 28% this year. Now, this is back in 2022 when they wrote this. And it says primarily driven by a flight towards safer assets amid soaring inflation. And this according to a new World Gold Council report. So they are moving towards safer assets. So you might say, well, the dollar is safe. Why aren't they just keeping it in dollars? Well, I just showed you why. Because inflation is destroying the dollar, things are getting more expensive, and we are near the end of the traditional or standard world reserve currency status. So they are moving to gold. Gold has been used as money for thousands of years. And I know a lot of people are looking at other things or they don't understand gold, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people who do understand it and they are buying it by the ton. And I'm talking central banks. And again, this is why it's important that people, especially Americans, understand money and the history of money. Because if all you know is the dollar, you're screwed. I mean, that's all there is to it. Because if the dollar goes away, you will have no you won't have any money. You won't have any value. You won't be able to buy anything unless they create something new. So it's very important that you have something. And as you can clearly see, I have another article headline here. It says China leads record central bank gold buying in first 9 months of the year. So I want you to ask yourself, why are they buying gold? Why are they buying it? What do they know that you don't know? So a lot of us we think we know everything, and so we stop seeking knowledge. And unfortunately, that's not the way to go. Or we wait on mainstream media to tell us what we need to know. Well, maybe they don't have your best interests at heart. Maybe it's up to you to take the initiative and seek the knowledge for yourself. You might learn something that might surprise you. It's very important that we understand or humble ourselves and know there's a lot we don't know. And I fully embrace that concept, and I'm always striving to learn something new. And this is something I learned a couple of years ago. And once I really understood it, it changed my entire life and how I looked at money. So do your own research, people. You don't have to believe anything I say here, but I'm just trying to lay it out for you that you can clearly see there's a trend going on that we are not being taught in school, and it's definitely not being discussed in mainstream media because they really don't want us to know anything about gold and how owning gold is such an important part of your um, monetary life. Very important. So the next logical question should be, well, if the dollar does go away as world reserve currency, what would take its place? Now, there's a lot of discussion on that. And one thing that I think has a really strong possibility or probability of replacing the dollar are central bank digital currencies. And these are digital currencies. They're almost like credits that are issued by governments around the world. Now, I've made several videos about CBDCs, and they are coming because you can see here. Now, this is an old picture, but many, I say the majority of countries out there are working on a CBDC. Now, these things I believe are going to be very dangerous because they can track your every purchase because they're issued by governments, and then they can limit what you spend these digital currencies on, or um, they won't even let you buy certain things with them. So, for all you guys who like to have OnlyFans accounts and who like to go out and buy alcohol or pay your lawn boy, $20 bill just to mow your lawn, those days could be very well over because you're going to have a digital wallet and you're going to have to use the digital currency to pay for things. I believe this is going to cause a whole lot of problems in the world because a lot of people, they don't want their money tracked and they don't want limits on what they can or cannot buy. So if you like to eat peanut M&Ms and you have a sweet tooth, they could very well say, well, you know what? I don't think you need to be eating that because your cholesterol is too high. Or they could even be more extreme and say, well, you made a post on social media where you criticized a certain political party, and we don't like that. So no more digital tokens for you. They could do that. They could very well do that. So there's a lot going on. I strongly suggest again you do your own research and see for yourself. And this is where the gold comes in and the silver, because if you own physical gold and silver, that will have you outside the system. But we can talk about that aspect of the money and control in another conversation. But my belief and many others is central bank digital currencies are here, they're coming, and they'll be used to replace the dollar. All right, guys, so this is the part of the video where I love to talk about things we can do to protect ourselves because a lot of the stuff I discussed is out of our control and there's nothing we can do about it. And we can analyze the fact that the dollar's losing value and why it's losing value, and our central banks around the world buying gold and CBDCs and all. We can analyze that all we want, but at the end of the day, the problem is still there. So now, what do we do? I think we got to have a game plan. So the first thing we have to accept, in my opinion, is expect the dollar to continue to lose value. I don't think things are going to get cheaper. Well, when I say that, I do mean things that we need, things we want will probably get cheaper. Things like cars and electronics and stuff like that, that will probably get cheaper because the demand will decrease because people are focused on buying the things that are getting more expensive, which is like food and medicine, things of that nature, and maybe even energy. I can see electric bills going up too. Time will tell. So the things we really need to survive will go up in price. They'll become more and more expensive, and other stuff will get cheaper. And that is where the gold and silver will come in because some of the things that get cheaper, and when I say cheaper, they will be less expensive, but because the dollar loses its value, it may still be difficult to attain those things. It's a very interesting situation. And that is where the gold and silver comes in, because gold can retain its value and allow you to buy things that may be cheaper, that can help you do better over time. And I'm talking things like real estate and other assets. So that's a whole nother topic. Anyway, we can expect the prices to keep going up on key items like food and water and basic essentials. So now that means you got to buy these things now. You got to buy more now, because again, do you think things will be more expensive in the future, or will they be cheaper in the future? I think food will be a lot more expensive, because even now, food is more expensive today than it was, say, 2 years ago. So if you want to combat or help lessen the effect of inflation, buy things you need now and put it away for the future. Okay. So another thing that we need to seriously consider doing is paying off our mortgage and other debts. And I just made a YouTube short about this. This is a very controversial strategy, and you can agree or you can disagree. It's perfectly fine, but just think about this. If you have a job and you have a 401k and you lose your job and you are currently paying on a mortgage, would you consider would you consider taking that 401k as an early withdrawal and paying off your mortgage? Think about it. If you just lost your job and you have a 401k and you have a mortgage, would you consider taking that mortgage, that 401k or IRA, having an early withdrawal and paying off your mortgage? Because if you do that, there's a good chance you may not be able to find another job that will pay enough to pay the bills that you currently have, because getting jobs is hard and harder right now. And if you do that, if you pay off that mortgage, then that means you won't have to have a job that pays as much as you currently do. You may be able to survive on a job that pays a lot less than what you currently make, because now you don't have a mortgage. And think about how more relaxed you will be if you know you own your house outright. Now, mind you, there will be, an early withdrawal penalty, and there may be tax ramifications on taking that money out. But with those ramifications, be less than your mortgage payment. If that's the case, that could be something to seriously consider. Now, I'm not telling you what to do, just have a strategy. Just think about it. Just think about it. Next, buy physical gold and physical silver, because that is real money. And again, this isn't discussed in mainstream news, but this is something you need to have just in case. Now, I will say this too. A lot of people say you can't eat gold and silver, and so it's just going to be a waste. Well, short term, you may not need that gold and silver more than you need food. Actually, you're going to need more food more than anything. However, let's look at it from a long term perspective. What if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, the real estate market crashes and the dollar has collapsed, and you can buy homes now or rental property? What are you going to use to buy it? You might be able to use that gold and silver to buy it, maybe convert it into the new currency that's out there, whatever it is. It's going to be worth a lot more than the dollars that we have now. And you can use the physical gold and silver to buy physical property. Just a thought. Again, you got to have a strategy and a long term strategy. And last but certainly not least, you want to have multiple streams of income and passive income. And this is more important than ever now, because we see people losing jobs left and right. They're losing jobs in all types of industries. I mean, I saw healthcare workers are getting laid off now, and I never thought I'd see the day when doctors and nurses are getting laid off. Doesn't make sense to me. So it's very important that we have multiple streams of income and passive income, because we are relying on one job and one income to pay all our bills. And those days are over. You got to have multiple streams of income because, again, you may want to work, but you can't work for whatever reason because you're sick or you simply just can't find work. So if you have passive income streams, that's going to be very important. And so I have several passive income streams. And one of my income streams actually is as a writer, as an author, but I'm also trying to help others and educate them as well. So I'm going to plug one of my books. This is a children's book. It's titled Planting Seeds, The Children's Guide to Entrepreneurship. And this book, I teach the basics of entrepreneurship for kids because this isn't taught in school. Unfortunately, the schools only teach you how to go out and get a job. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, get a job and work for someone else. Well, again, if you can't get the job, what are you supposed to do? You got to learn how to create your own. And I think it's very important that we start to teach our kids um, at an early age that they don't have to rely on someone else to give them a job. Okay, so this is just some tips that I have. I would love to hear what you think. I would love to hear your feedback, and this is something that's very important that we need to discuss because the world is changing right before our eyes, but mainstream media is just not talking about it. And if you know what's going on, what are you doing to help protect yourself? So these are some of my tips here. Of course, there are many other things we can do. Of course, we need to pray. We need to get that spiritual base and that belief in a higher power. And we have to believe that we're going to come out okay. So these are just my thoughts, people. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. And again, please like and subscribe to the channel and check out my books. I have online courses too, and I will leave the links in the description. Okay, guys, take care. Peace.